what's going on, Guitar Grappler here. So if you were to play a $5,000 ESP or Jackson guitar or a $1,000 ESP or Jackson guitar, which of the two do you think would make you sound like a better player? The $1,000 one or the $5,000 one? The answer is, if you're a good player, they'll both make it sound good. If you're a bad player, they'll both make it sound bad. And that's just what it comes down to. When you're getting at the $1,000 level of a reputable brand, we'll say, the difference between that and a $5,000 guitar, as far as playability and sound goes, the difference is not that big of a deal. And I'll explain what makes the difference in price, because you're not like totally just getting scammed. There are reasons, but they're not playability, and it's not what you expect. And I say this because I didn't know that up until a couple years ago when I started this channel. You know, coming up, I'd see my favorite guitar players like Alexi Leo, Steve Vai, Zakk Wylde, and they're playing very high-end guitars that cost a lot of money. They're made in the USA, they're made in Japan. So I'm always thinking, I'm like, man, if I played those guitars, I would be a better player. You know, it would make me better. And that's what people always go through. They always got to buy a new guitar they're searching, they're chasing the dragon, right? And I've done it. Yeah, I still kind of do it, but I've gotten a little more smart with how I do things now. But it's like totally normal and natural. And you don't realize that, well, if these guys played guitars that were $200, assuming they're not just piece of shit guitars, but like actually made decent $200 guitars, they would make them sound just as good. And they will blow you away with their playing because they're amazing players. They put the time into it, you know? And they're playing these expensive guitars because they're endorsed by these companies that are trying to get their name out there. So they're giving them their most high-end, most attention to detail guitars to sell more guitars, you know? So I've just seen a lot of people that were like me and don't understand this and don't understand why a guitar, entry-level guitar, what the difference is between that and a higher-end guitar. Like, what's the difference? What's making this? I mean, it's made out of wood and strings, so what's going on here? So I'm going to use the brand ESP, who's one of my favorite. I know I'm wearing a Jackson hat, but ESP is one of my favorite brands, and I feel like they have good tiers. Like, they have their lower-end LTDs, their deluxe LTDs, E2s, which are made in Japan, then their ESP USAs. So it'll give us a good way to kind of go through and see what makes this guitar, what makes this level of guitar, and what are some of the differences of what you can expect. You know, so I just kind of want to help people because I've gone through a lot of guitars and a lot of experience to gain this knowledge. And if you have anything that you want to add, or maybe you say, I don't want to say like say that I'm wrong, but I would like to hear what other people say too. Although I've gone through so many guitars, I'm very confident. My word's not gospel, but I'm very confident because I've just had so much experience, you know, with playing different instruments. So I want to hear some feedback, and I would like you to share it to people too, especially newer people getting into guitar. That way they can kind of have this understanding early on, as opposed to me almost 20 years later when I'm just finally starting to learn it because I've been able to play different guitars and experience it. So anyways, let's check out that ESP site and we'll go through some of the differences between some of these tiers of guitars. All right, so we're on the ESP site, and this can kind of go through every brand that's like a reputable brand. You can go through Schecter, you can go through Jackson, and you know, a bunch of others, Fender, and you're gonna kind of get the same type of, they have tiers, right? And there's reasons why these guitars are cheaper than other guitars. So, but like I said, I like ESP, and I think everything's separated pretty good. So let's kind of go through some of these, and hopefully we can start from the bottom to the top. But look at Alexi Leo with his beautiful ESP Custom. Such a legend. All right, so LTD is right here. Okay, so LTD it's ESP, but it's ESP's guitars that are made overseas. And they're imported guitars. So they're going to be cheaper than your USA Japanese guitar. They're mass produced, so that cuts costs down a lot. They're making a shit ton of them. So when you're making a shit ton of something, your cost goes down on it, right? The labor is cheaper because it's in Indonesia. Now, maybe a long time ago when they were making guitars overseas, you know, you have less craftsmanship. But with technology nowadays, these machines that they're making them on are very, very precise, and these people that they're employing are pretty knowledgeable, especially in Korea and Indonesia. Like, they're very knowledgeable workers, and they're seeing these guitars. They have a lot of experience over years, So the quality control and whatnot is pretty good. You know, you're gonna have duds. I mean, when you're making that many guitars, you're gonna have some that aren't gonna be perfect, right? So you're gonna have some issues, but in 2023, the quality that you're getting from import guitars is very, very good, especially on these high-end ones like these that we see here. So this is ESP LTD, their 1000 like deluxe series. If you see 1000, that's their highest level LTDs that they have. So yes, they are import LTDs, but like I said, or maybe I said it, I can't remember, but one of my favorite guitars is my Korean-made M1000, which is, you know, it's Korean made. It's an amazing guitar and it holds weight to any USA or Japanese guitar that I've played. And let's go over some of the specs and I'll explain why. So looking at this guitar, it's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, just by looks, it's like, looks top of the line. It looks fancy, looks high class. It's $1,200, so it is expensive. I mean, that's not a cheap guitar by any means, but it's also not a $3,000, $5,000 guitar. So when you look at the specs, that's like where some of the cost differences are coming from a ESP 1000 and an ESP or ESP LTD 1000 and an LTD 200. It's the specs that are really making the big difference here. So in the factories, because they may not be making them in the same factories. So on this 1000, we have a Floyd Rose 1000, which is a Korean-made Floyd Rose that has the same specs as the German-made original Floyd Roses. They're the same thing, same materials, same components. The difference is the Korean-made ones are made for manufacturers only. So you can't just go on Floyd Rose's website and buy one. They're proprietary to builders, which is why some of the cost is going down, because you're able to. These companies buy 10,000 of them at a time to put on their guitars as they're being manufactured. So the cost goes down because of that. I know people are like, oh, German is so much better than 1000. I've owned both. The difference is so slight. I think the biggest difference is the tuners on the German are a little bit smoother, and there's a little bit of a flutter that you get on the Germans that you don't really get on the 1000. Like you could kind of flutter the whammy bar a little bit. That's it, and that's very, very mild of a difference. So that's a high quality tremolo system that you have here. These pickups, these Seymour Duncans, these are the exact Seymour Duncans that they use on USA guitars. I mean, that's as high level as you get. Whenever you get in these pickups, it just comes down to personal preference. Do I want the Seymour Duncan JB? Do I want the Seymour Duncan Pegasus? You know, like that's just all that comes down to. But they're still high level guitars. It's like, what is the sound I'm trying to get at that point? Like, you know, because they're going to have slightly different tones and different sounds, but they're both high quality. So that's that. The knob, I mean, it's just straight up metal knobs. A lot of the components and wiring are going to be pretty much the same as like a USA or a Japanese guitar. Maybe there's a slight difference, but I guarantee you're not going to hear the difference. It's an alder body, which you'll find on higher end guitars. Makassar ebony fretboard, which is, once again, you can find that on high quality guitars. Now with ESP, the tuners, I think these are just like generic LTD branded tuners. Yep. So, okay. So a lot of times they have companies that are bigger companies make these for them. So there's still good components being made. But I will say that may be slightly of a downgrade. And if you wanted to, you could spend $100, get yourself some nice Goto ones and put them on there for $100 difference. And then now you definitely have everything that's basically the same as like a USA or Japanese guitar as far as components go. A maple neck, and yeah, I mean so that's it right there. So, and this, like I said, it's a $1,200 guitar, not cheap, but definitely not as expensive as some of these custom USA guitars. So that's the specs on that. Now let's go on. We'll see. Okay, so more. This is more 80. Oh, I went to the 87 series. So yeah, within the 1000 series and their deluxe, they have different body styles. Like the Arctic Metal series is also the same thing. It's like the 1000, but like it's these are a little more toned down. So like, look, there's only one pickup here, only one knob. You don't have inlays. So things like that is what's cutting the cost down on this guitar. But I guarantee you, it still has an alder body, Makassar ebony fretboard. same thing. And this has a painted neck, but it's probably a painted maple neck, I'm sure. Yep, 3-piece maple neck. And it doesn't have a Floyd Rose, so that cuts the cost down a little bit. It has this hip shot, which is very high level stuff that you will get on these high end things, high end guitars. But it's an LTD, right? Same with the tuners. I guarantee you, it's LTD tuners. Yep. They used to do Grover tuners on these 1000 series ESPs, but I guess with cost, that was one way they can kind of cut cost a little bit. Because my Korean-made M1000 has Grover tuners on it that came stock. And then now you have your Arrow, which is still, we're in the 1000 series. See 1000. Okay, perfect. Okay, so these are 1000. They're about 1200. Ooh, this one's 1500. They're getting expensive. So what is the reason why this one would be 1500? Let's see. Or 1600, really. They have the Fishman Influence, which are expensive and very nice. This is the Floyd Rose 1500, I believe. Let's see if it says that. Oh, no, it's 1000 SE. I wonder what the difference is. But basically, see how it has this this silver? That is stainless steel. So whenever you're twisting it and turning it, they're not going to go bad as opposed to like a, I guess, what would it be? Is it nickel plated? I'm not sure. I forget what they use, but it just lasts longer. So, okay, some things that change the price are the paint job. This may be a more expensive paint job. It looks like a satin finish too. Let's see. Oh, that looks like Grover tuners to me. Yep, Grover tuners. So that's going to add a little bit of the cost. Like I said, Fishman's do. And then that is a nicer... The Floyd Rose is slightly of an upgrade compared to the 87 series that I showed because of this stainless steel, which is something you can buy those stainless steel parts and upgrade it yourself, you know. And that even has it in the locking nuts at the top. So, all right. Now let's take a look at this one. So this one's a little bit cheaper, $1,300, but it has no Floyd Rose, right? It's probably, let's see, what kind of bridge? Sorry, my eyes, I'm not seeing it. Oh, recessed, Tone Pros locking, string through. So that's just a cheaper way than what a Floyd Rose is. So you're saving money there. They still have the Fishman Fluence pickups, right? The paint job is not as nice as the other one. This is more standard, like there's not all that color in it. What are the tuners? So these are LTD tuners. So you see how there's a couple small differences that make the price change, right? But I guarantee you've picked this guitar up and you picked the other guitar up and played them, aside from the Floyd Rose difference and the differences that causes, the playability is going to be pretty much exactly the same, despite the $300 difference. So that's where you're seeing the differences. Now, we'll go to the Arrow. It's still the Arrow. Look, there's an Arrow 1000. This is an Arrow 200 series, which is the lower end LTDs. Now, where was this made? Probably Korea or Indonesia. Let's see if it says it, because that's important too. 1000. Normally, I feel like normally they are supposed to say that where it was made. That's interesting. I wonder if we can see it on the headstock. Nope. That's interesting. But it's going to be Korea or it's going to be Indonesia. So looking at this, it has a very similar paint job. It's the plain satin that you're getting on the 1000 series. The neck, this looks like it's a rosewood or some type of Okay, so roasted Jatoba, which is, it's like a rosewood alternative. I think rosewood is like becoming more endangered now, so you can't really use rosewood, I believe is the case. But this is, it looks like rosewood. It probably feels like rosewood and sounds like it. So that's slightly of a cost difference, right? But when you feel and play on it, it's not going to be much different between the Macassar, I think is how you say it, Ebony, that you'll see on the 1000 series. These tuners are also LTD branded tuners, it looks like. Let's see, what else do we have on here? So the pickups are going to be a big difference. These are probably what they call them, EZ. Let's see, Okay, so yeah, they're ESP LH301 or HZ is what like the lower end ESP. So they're designed by ESP and they're made by a company in probably Indonesia or somewhere overseas. You know, maybe China. So they're making them in bulk. They're cheaper. They're not made specifically by ESP. So they're still going to be decent pickups. They're designed and they were made, the specs were made by ESP or by, oh, no, ESP, I'm sorry, not EMG. I confused that. So ESP made these pickups, and then they're having another company make them that make pickups, but they're not going to be as high quality as like a EMG, as a Seymour Duncan. And you will hear a difference, but you're not going to hear that much of a difference. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would change them out more than likely because you want some of these subtleties, like you want to sound as best as you possibly can, but it's not that big of a difference, you know, if you say you can't afford it. Then the Floyd, so FR by Floyd Rose, that probably means it's yep. So this is a Floyd Rose special basically, which is the difference between that and your 1000 series or your 1000 SE is it's going to be made out of softer metals that will corrode over time. They're not going to hold tuning just the same. They're not going to be as good as the 1000 or the originals, but and they're not going to last as long. So that's how some of this cost is getting cut there. So in time, you may need to change these out, but they're still pretty decent. I've had these specials before, and they're not terrible. They're just not as good, right? But when you're looking at $700 compared to these other ones that are $1,200, $1,300, the difference is not as big as you might think. You know, I guarantee you this guitar plays and sounds pretty damn good. And if I were to have this guitar, and let's say you spend $100 to change the tuners, you spend $100 and just change, let's just say the bridge. If you're playing metal, I mean, this front pickup will probably do all you need. And then if you change the Floyd Rose, that's like $300, $400, $500. So you spend about $500 on the components. You're kind of going to get yourself a guitar that's going to be similar quality to your 1000s, and you're going to have the same components, but you're also paying about the same price. So you might as well just buy one of the $1,000 or 1000 series guitars. Okay, so that's just kind of showing some of the difference between the LTDs. And this can go on because there's different shapes and models that they have, but it's all the same thing. Even the Vipers, I believe, have your 1000s, and then you have your 200 brand. But the same differences I just pointed out are going to be on these as well. So now we'll go up. I guess it's going to be a fairly long video, but it should be. And if you're watching, I appreciate it because I think this is good information. Signature series is just like signature guitars that they have. I'm almost positive. Yeah, look. Okay. Basically guitars that that they're people that they sponsor and make their own special signature guitars of. Man, if you're into metal, ESP, look how many people they endorse, right? Now let's go to the E2 guitars. And these are the Japanese made guitars, and look at the prices. $1,000 difference. But let's see, let's take a look. All right, so let's see some of the specs on these, right? Oh, these come with a case too, so that's an upgrade. But for them, a case probably costs like $20, $30 for them, maybe $50, let's say. So what's the body? An alder body, just like the 1000s. This burl maple top, this is different, and this probably does add cost because of this paint job. So that's going to add some cost. Ebony fretboard as opposed to Makassar ebony. Now the difference is this in true ebony. Look how black it is. It's just like a cleaner black ebony, whereas the Makassar ebony is like, it's a lighter. It's more inconsistent. As far as feel, sound, and everything goes, you're not going to see or feel that much of a difference. Like almost none. But it does look a little bit better if you want that dark look on that fretboard, right? They have recessed knobs, which is pretty cool, but my Kramers have that, and they're $1,000, and they have the recessed thing. So I think that's more just a style thing. Let's see. Oh, I forgot this. These do have stainless steel frets. So stainless steel is definitely an upgrade compared to nickel. Nickel will wear over time. Stainless steel will last to the end of time. And it takes a little more work to get the stainless steel, to work with the stainless steel. So that's going to add a little bit of cost as well. Let's see. I'm sure the tuners are high quality. Yep, so this is like Godo locking tuners, if I'm not mistaken. But let's take a look. Yep, Godo locking tuners. I have these on my, I put these on my Harley Benton that I have. And we have the Fishman pickups, which is the same Fishmans that we've seen on the 1000 series. So as you can see, there are some subtle differences, but I guarantee you the playability between this and that 1000 is not that much. Now these are, I'm not sure if these are even handmade. I know that a lot of the stuff is done by hand, and they're gonna put a little more attention to detail and like the small details, the paint job and everything, and like they're gonna be brushed with a fine tooth comb a little more than the 1000 series. So you may not have like the same, or you shouldn't have the same like maybe paint oversprays or like little tiny imperfections. But for $1,000 difference between this and the 1000 series, it's just not that big of a difference. I promise you, as far as playability and sound goes, you know, but it is a little bit nicer. It is, but it ain't that big of a difference. So, so that's some of the things with ESP, the E2s, and you'll see that on all of these. We can go through all these and look, because it has a Floyd Rose, and it's probably an original Floyd Rose. You know, we got the 2200 price range. This different paint jobs. There's less of these made, so yeah, Floyd Rose original. Whenever you get an E2 and they're more expensive, less people are going to have them, so you'll be a little more unique than if you're playing the 1000 series or the lower level ESPs. And that will be the same for all of these. They're just different models, different shapes, but we're going to see the same type of differences. And then we go to the USA. So now this is going to get, now look at these finishes. You see, these are like handcrafted in California, so they're custom. Like you pick the specs. There's like years of a wait limit for these too. They take that long because it's so backed up, right? So we're not even gonna be able to see like the specs. Oh, okay, cool, we are. All right, good. So obviously what you're getting here is like, especially on something like this and this, these are crazy paint jobs. Look, starting at $4,000. You're paying for the labor and you're paying for like crazy specifications and unique paint jobs and stuff like that. But this looks like it's Makassar ebony to me. It may or may not be. It's hard to kind of tell. We're getting these tuners. What are these? These look like Schaller tuners or Spertzel tuners. I think the Spertzel is what they're called. Does it say? So it has a original Floyd Rose, just like the Japanese one. And remember what I said, the Korean 1000 series and the German, there's not much of a difference between the two. So you're getting essentially the same type of Floyd Rose on it. So this is a mahogany neck. And that's just personal, because some of these $1,000 guitars will come with mahogany necks, mahogany bodies. So that type of wood isn't making that much of a difference in the price. So yeah, you can put Seymour Duncans, EMGs, Fishman, same thing you see on these other guitars. They have a case. The neck shape isn't that much of a difference. And that's some of the differences you'll see between brands. Like, what if I want to buy a Schecter that's the $1,000 range, right? It just comes down to like your vibe, you know? Like a Schecter is going to have that like Sinister Gates type feel. Now, they have expanded their style, but like it kind of just goes down to that. You're getting the same components. They're probably made in the same factories. It's like, which one do you like better? Which brand do you like better is why you would buy a $1,000 Schecter between a $1,000 ESP, you know? But the point I'm trying to make is, I guarantee you this guitar feels just like the Japanese E2s and just like the 1000 series. The difference is not going to be that much. Despite being handmade. I mean, look, even if it's handmade, the machines are freaking so high quality. It's like the machines are making these things dead on, you know? So it's like, it's kind of weird, because if like, you would think a machine would make it even better. Now, I'm not gonna say that, but the machine is like made to make it perfect every time. It's not going to, but that's what it's made to do. So you would think the machine would even be better than somebody carving it themselves and shaping it themselves. But there are some very good craftsmen that work for these companies. So I'm not going to totally say that. Now, so what are you paying for? Paint jobs. You're paying for the labor to have someone that's a craftsman take the time to work this guitar and mold it into something. You know, their craftsmanship. You're paying for craftsmanship. Is basically what you're doing when you're paying customization and craftsmanship. Which there's something to it. Like if I had a shit ton of money, I would buy these guitars. Like, if I had the money. I don't have the money, so I'm not. Because I appreciate I appreciate craftsmanship. I do appreciate things being handmade. But if you're like me and you can't afford all of that, then you have to be smart with your money too. And you have to say, well, that's for other people that can afford it, or like, sponsored artists. For me, I still want to play something that's going to feel just as good. And that's where you'll get your 1000 series, 1000 series and stuff like that. But it is cool. I love looking through all the custom handcrafted stuff that they do, because it is amazing. These guitars are beautiful. And look, there's all the stuff you get to choose from, all the paints you get to choose from. I think it's cool as hell. But keep in mind, this is what you're paying for. You're not paying for playability as much as customization and craftsmanship. So, let's see. That was a very long-winded way. Oh yeah. And these are like some of their custom shop stuff that they make for NAMM. I mean, I would definitely suggest go and look at this. Now, these are like I was saying earlier, like a $5,000, $10,000 guitar, because look at what they're doing. Once again, this is craftsmanship. I guarantee if you play these guitars, they're not going to feel or play that much more. They're probably going to play the exact same as like the E2s and 1000. But look at the work. Look at the time it takes and the craftsmanship that goes into. These are works of art. These are literally works of art that they do for NAMM, that just so happen to play really good too, I'm sure. But that's where your difference is going to be. I know I keep repeating myself, but that's the point I want to make with this video. And I'm glad that these exist because it's just cool. But if you're buying guitars and you're looking to say I want to get a new guitar and I don't understand the differences, hopefully this video helped you and kind of shows you, what you can expect. But yeah, if I was you, I'd go through this custom shop and look at some of the stuff they can do, because it's super fun. I mean, look at some of these paint jobs. And this is just stuff that you're not going to get on, these highly produced production models. Yeah, if I had the money, man, of course I would have my own custom stuff. I mean, it's just unique. It's cool as hell. So, anyways, I could talk about guitars forever. In fact, I would love for you to comment. And if you stayed to the end of this video, hey, I really appreciate you. Because I know sometimes I just kind of ramble on. But I just love talking about guitars. So, if you have anything you want to add it in the comment section. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. And I'm more than happy to discuss.